on digital radio, on the app, on your smart speaker, on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch.tv, and Facebook.
The Sports Cast. Expect the unexpected.
The update presented by the Sports Cast.
Welcome to the Sportscast, May 20th, 2024. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, X, Twitch, and Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to us on your smart speaker. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. We're also on online radio. Visit our website, thesportscast.net, or check us out on X and Instagram at thesportscast1. And check out our app, the Sportscast for iOS. It was a bloated Sunday. I had people texting me, "Are you ready for the Premier League and NBA games and sevens?" I said, "Yes, I'm ready. Just needed some coffee beforehand." And join us all the way from the Northeast, Hal Phillips. Welcome back to the Sportscast.
Hey, Santi. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. What a day yesterday. How did you handle it? I mean, were you prepared mentally coming into yesterday?
Well, it was very dicey because I had a gig. I play in a band, and we had a big gig on Sunday afternoon. So I had to tape some things and watch them afterwards for my own edification, of course, for the Sportscast audience, but also for my own edification. And the PGA Championship was on, and I'm in the golf business, and I couldn't not watch it. I wanted to watch it. So yeah, I was up late last night catching up on that. But it was a full day, and there actually should have been a third Game 7. I'm in hockey,
which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, I think the biggest game of this NBA playoffs, maybe for a while, is the Timberwolves defeating the defending champions, Denver Nuggets, 98-90. And the Timberwolves were down by as most as 20 points in the first half. And the team came through, and you saw the Nuggets. Oh my gosh, how they were gassed out by the fourth quarter.
Yes,
I mean, there was no way Jokic was able to come back. He didn't rest. I think he only rested for 1 minute.
1 minute. He actually played an incredible fourth quarter, considering how dead tired he must have been. But the end of the first quarter and the end of the second quarter were just all Denver. They finished, I think, the half up 15, and with 9 minutes left in the third quarter, they were up 58-38. And Minnesota they didn't explode. They just tightened the screws and figured out how to score again. And basically, they outscored the defending NBA champions 54-24 and were up 88-78. And, that game was sort of over at that point. Karl Anthony Towns he tried to give the game away, gave an incredible inbounds pass where he basically should have just thrown it off someone's back. I don't know what he was thinking. Should have called timeout. Anyway, that ended the game. But an incredible run by Minnesota. There was so much going on in this game, and we could spend an hour dissecting it, but it was incredibly compelling athletic theater in my book.
A lot of theater going on. As you mentioned, Karl Anthony Towns tallied 23 points and 12 boards to lead the Timberwolves to the first Western Conference final since 2004. I believe Kevin Garnett was in that team, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Jokic, MVP Jokic, added 34 points, 19 boards, and 7 assists, but still not enough. And Anthony Edwards only had 16 points, had a good game, played some defense, only had 16 points. Jaden McDaniels had 23 points, and it was pretty much a team effort. How there was not that one star that stood out, but they just came through. That young squad that was built, as Jokic said, this team was built to beat us.
Yeah, and they were built by the guy who built the Nuggets, a guy named Tim Conley, who's the GM for the Timberwolves. So it was no accident. It was no accident picking up Rudy Gobert. He knew that he needed him to beat this team. And everyone said, "Oh, what are you going to do with Cat? They can't play together. Now you're hamstrung on the budget, front." But they knew what they wanted to do, and they were validated. Everything they did was validated. Carl Anthony Towns played a pretty darn good game. As good as he was when he went out with 5 fouls and 6 minutes left in this game, still nip and tuck affair. Naz Reid came in and basically put the lid on Jokic. No one guarded Jokic like this all season. I would contend. Naz Reid just has come of age as a player. He's basically like a giant guard. He's like a 7-foot guard. He moves and defends like a 6'6" guy, shoots like a 6'6" guy, but he's 7 feet tall with a huge reach. Amazing defense on Jokic. I mean, what are the takeaways here? One is we've touched on, you and I, in previous pods. Denver just wasn't big enough to deal with these Timberwolves. Jokic is not small, and he's a banger. He was never intimidated by playing against any of those guys, but they had 3 7-footers going against him the whole time, and they never had any answer. DeAndre Jordan is their backup center, never came in the game. Aaron Gordon, who played so well, I guess in game 3 when he went 12 for 13, a non-entity in this game. I think he had, he had 4 points and 4 rebounds or something like that. He was just not there. Didn't bring the ball up, didn't rebound. I mean, so many things happened to turn around a 20-point deficit and turn it into a 10-point lead for Minnesota. That's a 30-point turnaround. Obviously, there's a million things happening there. But at the end of this game, in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, Denver just couldn't get a rebound. Every time the Timberwolves put something up, someone swooped in and grabbed it. And I think the lid was put on it with a follow dunk by Karl Anthony Towns that really just, I think they had to have that shot. They had to get the rebound, Denver did, and they couldn't. And not only did they not get it, but they gave up a dunk and the game was over. Incredible turnaround. I mean, Ant-Man was 6 for 24 in this game. They won anyway. It shows you how deep and how versatile they are. And Denver's just got to do something because Michael Porter can't board with these guys. And Aaron Gordon is not a backup center.
No, it's definitely not. As Hal was alluding to this, only 2 players had the double digits in from the Nuggets, and like the rest of the bench, the role players, single digits. There has to be change in the offseason, Hal. There has to be some tweaking. This team cannot, continue with this type of roster. They got to rebuild, apparently. They're the 6th team who did not make it to the alley. So what do you think this team should do?
Well, it's a different NBA than it was in 2018, for example. We're going to have the 6th different NBA champion this year. No repeat champions in that period. That hasn't been done since the 1970s. The NBA is a league of dynasties. We all know it. The Lakers and the Celtics ruled the 70s, then the 80s rather. Then the Pistons won 2 or 3 in a row and got to the finals 3 times. Then the Bulls did it, and then the Lakers did it. So, and the Houston jumped in and got. So I mean, repeat champions is what the NBA is about. Well, that's not what the NBA is about anymore. And to show what a fine edge that is, I mean, if Denver wins this game and they, up until 9 minutes left in the third quarter, they were cruising in this game. They played the best half of the entire series in the first half of Game 7 and ended up losing the game. What do they do to compete with this team going forward? Well, they have to get bigger. But I don't know that they need to, they really need a backup center. I mean, DeAndre Jordan is not playable. They need someone who they can bang, right next to Jokic. And Aaron Gordon is that guy, but then they bring Naz Reid off the bench, who's a 7-footer who does the same thing. So I think they need to get bigger. I don't know exactly who that would be. I mean, it's a unique team that they've put together in Minnesota, and we're going to see just how unique it is when they play Dallas in the Western Final. Dallas has become a different team itself. They have loaded up with big guys. They brought in Daniel Gafford and they drafted Derek Lively. Remember when Dallas tanked at the end of last year to get a draft pick? Well, Derek Lively was what they got with that draft pick.
It's been
Pretty
worth it
shrewd
so far.
move. Yeah, pretty shrewd move. But they never play those two guys together. Dallas would be able to do that with someone like Maxi Kleber playing next to either of those guys. Dallas is a big team, though, but they're not as big as Minnesota. The only team that really matches up well with Minnesota in this regard are the Boston Celtics. So we may get a chance to see that in the final with Porzingis and Horford and Tatum. They have three guys who can play big. They also, they play a couple different backup centers whose names are eluding me. And but Tatum is 6'10", and Tatum is a lot like Karl-Anthony Towns. He's really not a banger. He's a perimeter player who can go down and rebound it. So, I mean, they match up pretty well with them because they're huge. It's really sort of interesting that we're coming to this because, the party line about the NBA for a long time of late has been, well, your power forward has to be able to shoot the three. That changes the type of body that your typical four has. Minnesota is a throwback. They have 3 7-footers, and 2 of them shoot the three anyway. So we can talk a little bit about Rudy Gobert as well. He was really vindicated in this series.
Unsung hero.
Yeah, it was really weird, though. I mean, watching that game last night, and when they were down 20 in the third quarter, even when they started to make their run, I thought Denver did an amazing job defensively, isolating Gobert. They basically were forcing the Timberwolves, to play the ball through Gobert. They were letting him have it in the middle of, the key. And they were, running pick and rolls and obligating going under so that Gobert was the only person who could get the ball in any kind of scoring position. And that's exactly what the Nuggets wanted. Gobert has no offensive touch, no clue. But you know what? He battled through. He made one crazy shot. He made a couple of others. He made his free throws. And by that time, they were within 10, and everything started to loosen up. But, yeah, Gobert has got to be the happiest man in the NBA right now.
Yeah, Gobert with 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 1 assist, had a good night. But as you alluded, the Mavericks is who Minnesota plays next.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie and, of course, Luka versus a Minnesota team, which I see them as more of a complete team. But I want to hear your take on the prediction for the Eastern Conference. What are your thoughts over this matchup? Is it going to be close? Is it going to be – what's going to happen? Your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a great series, and I think they are, in a peculiar way, very well matched. We talked about the big guys that the Wolves have, and I think Dallas is going to have trouble there. They're going to have to rebound the ball. PJ Washington, in particular, is going to have to rebound the ball like a madman because he's about 6'8", but he's going to get either Towns or Gobert, and he's going to have to rebound against both of them if they're going to, compete. Everywhere else, I think Dallas matches up quite well. They have people who can guard the Ant-Man. I mean, Derek Jones has been amazing. He's the small forward who's playing for the Mavericks. He played with Chicago last year. Incredible athlete, is making his threes in this playoff. He looks like Scottie Pippen, and he's a great guy to play the Ant-Man. They've got a couple of guys who they can throw at him. The harder matchup, I think, will be Minnesota trying to guard Doncic and Kyrie. I predict you'll see Kyrie taking Mike Conley to the block routinely. He can't guard Kyrie. And anywhere on the court, if he's got a one-on-one with Mike Conley, he's going to the rack, he's pulling up, he's taking him on the block. Kyrie did not have a great scoring series against OKC. He's, I think, ready to bust out, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Dallas is big, sort of in a uniform way. I mean, their point guard is 6'9". Kyrie is 6'2" or 3", and, is their off guard. So that presents matchup problems for a lot of teams. And they're big uniformly because they bring Gafford off the bench, and they've got 2 7-footers. They both run the floor. They're both defensively oriented. But they're big in different ways. And each one of this can be able to exploit the other. I think that Doncic and Kyrie are going to go crazy in this series because I don't think Doncic is going to guard Ant-Man. They're going to let Derek Jones do that because that's going to make Doncic way too fatigued to run the team if he has to chase him around. I think you're going to see him on McDaniels.
You know, it's interesting. One of my buddies that also watches the NBA playoffs, he was saying he would like to see the Mavericks move on so he can have Kyrie return up to the TD Garden and see what happens.
Well, people may recall that I guess it was the year the Bucks. So the year the Bucks won, was it 2021? Or yeah, I think it was 2021.
2021, yeah, that was about right.
Yeah, the Celtics drew the Bucks in the first round of the playoffs. Kyrie had declared his fealty to the Celtics forever, said he wanted to be a Celtic forever. They go into Milwaukee and they just drubbed the Bucks on their home floor, beat the hell out of them. And then they turned around and lost 4 games in a row and they were out of the playoffs. And Kyrie's like, I want to leave. So, yeah, he did not endear himself to the Celtics faithful, and it'll be a fascinating series either way if they end up beating the Pacers, the Celtics, that is. And that's not a given, but I'm certainly happy that the Pacers have moved on because, man, I'm tired of the Knicks.
Which, great segue. The Indiana Pacers advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2014, actually, after defeating the New York Knicks 130-109. This game 7 was not close at all. How it was pretty much Indiana all the way. Shooting performance was actually the best in postseason history. Pacers knocked down 67% of their field goals, narrowly beating the record held by their Celtics. So this Pacer team destroyed the Knicks.
Yeah, it was a strange game. I mean, look at it this way: 67% as a team. That's nuts. That's crazy.
Unheard of.
And, honestly, if they had shot 50% from the floor, which is still very good, they might not have won the game. They were that good. Naismith was 8 for 8. The guy they bring up the bench, Jackson, he was 3 for 3. McConnell was 6 for 8 from the floor. I think Halliburton was like 12 for 22 or something like that and had a great game. Every single starter other than him shot better from the floor. I mean, they killed them, and they just couldn't stop them. And Rick Carlisle went to great pains in the aftermath to talk about how well they played defense. I guess they played better, and they have played a more committed brand of defense pretty much since January when they brought Siakam in. But very strange series. The Knicks, I mean, you have to applaud the effort, but they were just a shell of themselves by the end of the series, and it's only the second round. I mean, everyone's saying that Tibbs ran this team into the ground. Well, he did, and he can try to defend his use of players, during the season and every, game up to this point. But this team was down to bare bones because they were all beat up, hurt, or what have you. And it's only the second round of the playoffs. It's not like we're in the finals and they are all, sustaining this kind of, durability issue. I don't know. I really don't think that the Knicks have a whole lot to complain about. And I don't think that they are worried about the future with the full team. This is a good team. They just need to play the players they have and not, play Jalen Brunson 40 minutes a game, meaningless games. 5 times, during these playoffs, they were getting blown out. And friends of mine were texting me saying, why are they still playing Brunson? And the game's over. Get him out of there. He, of course, broke his hand on Halliburton's knee in the fourth quarter. So he did not finish this game either. But a lot went wrong for the Knicks. But I think with Randall and Mitchell back next year, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Tibbs obviously can coach, but man, someone's got to get his ear on the sideline or in the front office and say, we've got 10 guys here who can play. Let's play them.
I totally agree. I was thinking about you when I saw those Knicks players just get injured and injured. OG played for 4 minutes?
Yeah.
He looked horrible. Running across the court.
He was trying. I mean, he wants to play for his teammates. He wants to participate. He doesn't want to just throw in the towel. I mean, sometimes things get better. I don't know the nature of his injury. It looked like he had, it looked like he strained his hamstring, 4 days
hamstring
ago.
about 11 days ago, and it hasn't really fully recovered.
Dude, I pulled a hamstring in 1999, and it's never been the same. I mean,
Really?
it just doesn't get better. And even when it heals, it's not the same. It gets tired faster. It gets sore and stiff faster. OG is he'll be fine. He's a young man and a superb athlete, unlike myself. So he'll be fine. But yeah, you don't come back and you're not the same. Halliburton is still dealing with a hamstring issue that he had in early January. He's not the same player. So they all make adjustments. You know, I applaud the effort. DiVincenzo is I don't know what his contract is, but if it's up, he's going to make some money somewhere because that dude can play. But I would like to say that I think that you know, the 67% shooting in Game 7 is very Villanova against Georgetown in 1985, and it just so happens that the Knicks have 3 Villanova guys on their roster. So Villanova North got Villanova by the Pacers in Game 7. That's the headline if you really want to get wordy.
Yeah, quite interesting series, as Hal put it together. Indiana did not see them go deep. Everyone was picking New York, but Indiana moves on and they play your Boston Celtics. What are your thoughts over this series? It's gonna be interesting, but what are your thoughts? What's gonna happen?
Well, series like this one that the Pacers just won, they changed teams. So did the series where the Pacers beat the Bucks, the highly favored Bucks, without Giannis. They've gotten lucky. They've played 2 teams that have been seriously undermanned, but they've won the games. And we talked about how NBA rosters and lineups have changed in the modern era. And Pascal Siakam has been a perfect fit for this team. He rebounds just enough. He likes to get out and run. He's another offensive option, a different kind of offensive option for what is essentially a jump shooting slash and kick team. So I like their lineup. I don't think they can play with the Celtics. They've stolen some games from the Celtics this year. They've outscored them on occasion, I think, and they've put up a good fight. But what makes the Celtics good is the fact that no matter how bad their offense is and how predictable and how stubbornly they shoot the three, they never stop playing defense. And they have 8 guys who can do it. And they're going to have guys to throw at Halliburton right and left. He's going to be dogged the entire time. And the Celtics are much bigger and better on the boards than the Pacers. I have a hard time seeing the Pacers doing much. I'm going to say Celtics in 6.
Celtics in 6. Actually, the season series has Celtics 3-2. So you guys are looking good to win this series. So we'll see what happens. Eastern Conference final begins tomorrow night, and the Western Conference begins the day after. So we'll see what happens. Big news: Man City won their Premier League for the 4th time after defeating West Ham 3-1. And it was another victory for Man City. Arsenal also defeated Everton 2-1, but was not enough because they needed City to tie or lose against West Ham. How this team is unbeatable. I mean, you had Haaland, who was injured for a good part of the season. De Bruyne, injured for a good half of the season, actually. Still won the league.
Yeah, I think they've 35 games without a loss now. Yeah, it's crazy. But then with cup matches and what have you, they're playing for the FA Cup against Manchester United in 2 weeks' time. They've already won the League Cup. Amazingly, they went out on penalties to Real Madrid, or else we'd be talking about a team that's capable of winning 4 trophies in a single season. Look, they're the best team in England. They're probably the best team in Europe, although they couldn't get it done against Real, so they'll have to put that claim down for now. Now, I guess we just sit back and see whether or not the Premier League has the balls to actually enforce the 115 charges of financial impropriety that we're still waiting to be adjudicated. And you know, they seem perfectly willing to slap the wrists of Nottingham Forest and Everton. Will they slap the wrist of a rich club like Manchester City? I hope so. I think it's obvious that they have spent money that no one else can spend, even in the absence of a salary cap, because, of course, English football does not have such a thing. There are rules, and they've clearly exceeded them. They have the best roster in the league because they've paid for it. And the whole idea is that there has to be some kind of level playing field. I don't feel like they're playing on one. So we'll see. I don't know what will happen. They wait until after this is over It's hard to go back and take a championship away. I don't think they'll try to do that, but I do think something is coming because it's actually going to get a little boring if they win 4 times in a row. No English team has ever done that, ever, in any top flight. So this is unprecedented. It does threaten to make the English League not antiquated or not watchable, but it does take a big shine off of it to have one team winning it every year. And I got to say, this year, the English League was top to bottom as strong as it's ever been. The 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th place teams in the English League are very, very good teams, very expensive teams, and didn't make any difference. No one can touch these guys. And Arsenal played well. Not an Arsenal fan, but I do applaud their effort. They played very, very well over the last season. If we look back on one moment when perhaps they could have changed this situation, they had a chance to go into Manchester City and beat them. They got a 0-0 draw, which is not a bad result. But if they had gone all out to win that game, we're not having this discussion.
Yeah, that's something that I was talking to someone at the pub about. That one game that Arsenal went to Man City, that would have been a whole different conversation if they would have took advantage of the whole situation and win it. But yeah, there you have it. Arsenal is one positive thing about Arsenal is that they only missed by 1 point compared to 4 to 5 points last year. So there was improvement in the Arsenal squad. But I do think they could win it, soon. But obviously, we got to see what happens. Another news: Liverpool had a farewell to Jurgen Klopp yesterday. They defeated Wolves 2-0. Wolves were down to 10 men. There was a red card in the first half. But it was a good finish for Klopp. 8 seasons with Liverpool, a couple of trophies, 1 Premier League trophy, no Champions League, and a few EFL Cups. But, Jurgen Klopp had a good finale. Arne Slot got hired today. Well, not hired today, but he got announced today by Liverpool. But what a sad moment. All things come to an end.
Hey, well, I'll leave that to you. You think it's sad. I don't care about Liverpool. What do you think? How sad are you?
Well, a little bit of disappointment. Obviously, Klopp always trying to chase behind Guardiola. He did his best that he can, which I actually was reading into today that I forgot 2 years ago. That Klopp and Liverpool were 1 point off of beating Man City for the league. So I kind of felt for you a little bit for Arsenal. Well, you're not an Arsenal fan, but for all these Arsenal supporters. So quite a finish for Klopp. Wish we won the Europa League, but hey, you do what you can. It's a tough league, as Hal said, but there's a lot of parity there as well.
Big picture, though, Santi. I mean, as an American sports fans, I think that everyone is sort of wondering, what is going to happen going forward with basketball and hockey, frankly, and MLS. I mean, the issue in this country is that because we have playoff systems, postseason tournaments, no one's watching the regular season. No one pays attention to regular season basketball and hockey games. And a lot of people would argue that no one pays attention to MLS games either, except for the people who were in the stadium. They've done a good job filling those stadiums. England does not have that problem with Premier League football. Every single game in their regular season matters. And so when you win the league by 1 point, you could point to 5 or 6 different games where they secured that point or avoided a loss to secure the point. That's how you build meaning for the regular season. You don't have playoffs. And the idea that there's no consequence to our system here in the States is fantasy. We're not, paying the price, at least in terms of viewership, for our decision to throw all our eggs into the postseason basket. I mean, why are we playing 82 NBA games? They're meaningless. Everyone's like, oh, well, we'll play 60. Well, those are going to be essentially meaningless too. I'm not sure anyone's going to watch it. And this is a big, issue too on the WNBA side. I just don't know that people just aren't watching regular season games. And people will say, oh, well, it's too much content. They have too many choices. That's also true. And that just makes it even worse news for sports leagues and how to market these regular season games. In England, they don't have that problem. They have all sorts of other things that they keep people interested with in terms of the FA Cup and the League's Cup and the Champions League, most of all. That's all in addition to and unrelated to the business of the leagues. And, they have charity shields in Major League Soccer. Oh, they got the most points, for the season. That means everything in most soccer leagues around the world. Here, it's sort of just a nice little thing before the playoffs start, and it really doesn't matter once the playoffs start. So there might need to be some soul searching in American sports about how this works, because I think it's a diminishing return when it comes to viewership. I'm in a fantasy basketball league, as everyone knows. That's why I pay attention to the regular season, and it's the only reason I pay attention to the regular season.
I told you how I think about this a lot lately about the NBA having so much regular season games. There's no incentive to watch.
No.
There's just no incentive to watch the regular season. Playoffs, yeah, everyone tunes into the playoffs, but no one watched it back in February or January. It's so sad.
TNT, which broadcasts both the NBA and the NHL right now, they pay the money for the playoffs. They have a big, lump sum that they pay to the leagues to broadcast those games. They don't make any money until the playoffs come around. They're getting, 400,000 viewers for a midseason Vancouver Anaheim game at 10 o'clock Eastern, if that. And they're getting that kind of viewership. And, that's just not good enough. I mean, in any other context, they would never pay money for that. But can I say one more thing about the NHL?
Go for it.
I respect the NHL in a lot of ways because they've kept their traditions going with regard to the playoffs. And one of their great traditions was Game 6. If the team that's behind 3-2, if they win that game, the very next day, if this game happens on a Friday, on Sunday, they play Game 7 at the other venue. And that's been true for a long time. And it makes that Game 7 more exciting because it's immediate. And they also make Game 7 about endurance and nerve and stamina, where if you took 2 or 3 days off between Game 7 and Game 6, that would not be the case. Well, Game 7 between Edmonton and Vancouver should have been played last night on Sunday night, but the NHL made a decision to avoid all that programming we were talking about, all the Game 7s in basketball and the PGA Championship, and they're playing Game 7 tonight. I believe it's in Vancouver. It's probably going to be a great game, but it would have been better if they had played it last night, according to tradition, and a little bit of a backslide there from the NHL in terms of catering to eyeballs. We're going to make more money and get more viewers if we put this on Monday night. And that's what they've done. I'll probably watch, but I'm sad that they gave up on what is a great tradition.
Yeah, they should have kept it last night. By the way, the NBA might move from TNT to NBC next season.
Yeah, I can't, I think TNT probably has heeded everything that we've talked about. They aren't listening to us, I don't think, but they know it better than we do. They're not making any money on the NBA. They're paying huge dollars up front. That's an old contract. I believe it's at least 3 years old. And this situation is just getting worse and worse and worse. So they're probably lucky they're going to get out. ESPN has a different problem because they're all about content 24/7. And this is their business. They're reporting on it. They're presenting it. I think makes a little bit more sense. And, NBC, they've got a bunch of affiliates too. I don't know whether they have a golf channel. They have USA Network has become their soccer channel. I don't know how they'll handle the NBA, but if you don't have a 24/7 sports broadcasting entity and you don't need to fill space, I'm not sure how it works. I hope they don't put all the games on Peacock.
Things could go towards there.
That would suck.
Anyways, there was a roster release for the U.S. men's national team for this June's camp. Obviously, this is a pre-warm-up for the Copa America, but this roster is probably going to be a Copa America roster as well. A couple of highlights. Sargent got selected. I heard he wasn't because he was injured or something. He got selected. Then Haji Wright, which there was a press conference from Coach Berhalter. He said that Wright will be good out in the wing rather than a 9 role. And then, of course, you see the return of Tim Ream, Shaq Moore, McKennie, And you might not be seeing Walker's hammer because he's going to the Olympics that Berhalter announced today as well.
Oh,
And then Horvath, yeah.
This has caught me by surprise. I'm looking away from the camera because I'm reading it on my monitor.
Yeah, I know it's small.
It's a little small, but I guess what caught my attention is one. There's two Tillmans, Malik and his brother who plays for LAFC. That's going to be fun. The strikers are about what I expected, and they are loaded. Tyler Adams is fit. Keep an eye on Johnny Cardoso, who plays for Real Betis. He went there this year and really impressed everyone. He's a guy who could actually, step in and play that position for Tyler Adams, or they could play, a double side-by-side central midfielder and set someone like Gio Reyna loose in front of them with very few offensive, defensive responsibilities. I guess in the back, they look a little thin. Miles Robinson is going to probably start, and Chris Richards has played well. And I'm really glad they brought Cameron Carter-Vickers in, who's played very well for Celtic and showed that he's a legit player by stepping in and starting and doing very well in what was the game that he played at the Qatar Olympics World Cup 2 years ago? Was it the final game? Yeah, it was the Iran game. It was the Iran game. He didn't start against Holland, but he's a quality defender. So I bet you he's a starting twosome with Miles Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. But this is not the team. This is not the this is the June camp team.
So things can be
the
tweaked.
Copa America team.
It's not gonna be the Copa America, but it'll probably be tweaked by the time Copa America happens. But I think most of the roster might be there, to be honest. But
right, and I think your point is well taken. They are juggling the responsibilities of the senior national team and what is the U.S. Olympic team that will play in Paris in July. So they have to be separate. The Olympic team is essentially an under 23 team, and you get 3 senior picks if you want to use them, i.e. older guys that are going to play. And I think Zimmerman has committed to that team, which is smart. He wants to play in the Olympics, and he may not have a spot on the U.S. MNT anymore. He's got a lot of competition, and why not go and have an experience at the Olympics and give some other guys a chance. And Carter-Vickers is certainly going to benefit from that.
Well, there you go. Sports doesn't stop. How, as you saw, we got Copa America this summer and also the Euros as well. So got a lot going on in sports. Yeah. Obviously, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, and some golf coming up. So
some golf.
Anyways, Hal, what is the best way to reach you online to talk to you about all these sports?
At that URL, my audiobook for Generation Zero, Founding Fathers, Hidden Histories, and the Making of Soccer in America is out. The audiobook's now available. You can go to that URL to check it out. That's my handle on Threads and Instagram as well.
There you have it. Check out how he knows the U.S. soccer history is quite fascinating. You can check us out at the Sportscast 1 on X and Instagram, or the sportscast.net. We'll be live tweeting throughout the week. Now every NBA playoff game will be every other night. So every night there'll be games. So nonstop. That's where the health will kick in. But your team is rested, so they should be good by tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think that this is also a very, very good couple of weeks for sports fans, because we have every night we have one conference final in the NBA and one conference final in the NHL. So that should be very, very entertaining.
Okay, let's go. Thanks for coming on, Hal.
My pleasure, Santi, always.
This was your update.